The day my mother said, "You are no longer my daughter," my world shattered into 1,000 pieces. Her voice was cold, void of any warmth, like the final sentence in a judgment I never saw coming. I stood frozen, heart pounding so loud I thought it would burst through my chest. How could the woman who once held me close, who promised to love me unconditionally, now erase me with a single sentence? If you've ever felt misunderstood or abandoned by your family, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe. My story might just give you the strength you need to keep going. My name is Camilla. For as long as I can remember, I lived under the suffocating weight of impossible expectations. Our home wasn't filled with laughter and understanding like the ones you see in movies. Instead, it was a battlefield masked by polite smiles and bitter silence. My mother, a woman obsessed with control and perfection, demanded obedience and silenced things I was never able to give her. My father, he became a quiet spectator, retreating into himself, unwilling or unable to stand up for me. I was always the problem child, the black sheep, the one who never measured up. My thoughts were dismissed, my dreams crushed. "You're too sensitive," they said. "You're selfish." Their words echoed inside me, telling me I was never enough, that I was flawed beyond repair. Each family event was a reminder of my place, the outsider, the disappointment. I sat on the edge of rooms, watching others celebrate while I was ignored. The silence between us screamed louder than any argument. Then came that bleak autumn morning, the day I graduated from college. I imagined that day would mark a new beginning, a chance to heal old wounds. Instead, it became the moment my world came crashing down. My mother called me that morning. Her voice was clipped, distant, colder than I had ever heard. "You're not welcome at the family gathering," she said. "Your choices have brought shame. You are a disgrace." Those words hit me like a fist to the gut. The shame she spoke of was hers to bear, not mine. Yet, I was left to carry it alone. I sat in my small apartment, the walls closing in, the silence deafening. I replayed every fight, every ignored plea, every moment when I wished for just a sliver of acceptance. Why was love so conditional? Why did family sometimes hurt the most? But even in the depths of that heartbreak, a spark ignited inside me, a fierce, burning defiance. I refused to be defined by their rejection. I knew I had to find my own way, no matter how lonely or dark that path would be. I thought I understood pain before. I was wrong. What I didn't know then was how long, how hard the journey ahead would be, whether I had the strength to rise from the ashes of the family I once loved. Would you walk away from everything you knew and loved or fight with every ounce of your being to reclaim it? For years before that shattering call, the fractures in my family had been growing wider slowly, quietly, but relentlessly. I buried my doubts beneath hope and stubborn loyalty, clinging to the belief that love would somehow win out, that if I just tried harder, stayed quieter, and bent more, the storm would pass. But love has limits, and mine ran out long before I was ready. My mother's bitterness wasn't born overnight. It seeped into every word, every glance, every unspoken expectation. She demanded perfection not just from me, but from the very fabric of our lives. When I dared dream differently, to seek a path beyond her rigid control, she met me with disdain. One cold afternoon, I nervously shared my passion for Arta's secret fire that warmed my soul amidst the cold walls of our home. Her response was colder than the winter wind outside. "Art won't feed you, Camilla," she snapped, her voice sharp like broken glass. "You need to grow up and be practical. Stop wasting your time chasing fantasies." Those words pierced me deeper than any slap, but what hurt the most was the silence that followed the way she turned away, as if I were invisible, as if I didn't exist. My father, once the kind protector I admired, had faded into shadows. His eyes, once full of warmth, now avoided mine. He became a ghost in our house, neither defending nor confronting. Was it fear? Resignation? I never knew. Family gatherings were minefields. Invitations ceased, whispers replaced smiles, and when I dared to show up uninvited once, the cold stares and thinly veiled contempt left no doubt I was no longer family. One Christmas, clutching a carefully wrapped gift I had spent weeks making, I approached the door with hope in my heart. My mother's words shattered it before I even knocked. "We don't want you here," she said flatly, the coldness in her tone cutting sharper than any winter frost. "Go!" I left that night with tears freezing on my cheeks, a heart heavier than the night air, swallowed by loneliness so vast it threatened to consume me whole. The betrayal was a weight that pressed on my chest, suffocating and relentless, not because they were family, because I had trusted them. I felt invisible, voiceless, abandoned. The silence around me screamed louder than any harsh word. I questioned everything, my worth, my place, even my existence. Was I truly so flawed? Was I the villain in their story? Yet amidst the crushing despair, a spark ignited deep inside me, a fierce flame of defiance. I refused to be shaped and broken by their rejection. I resolved to survive, to rise. But the moment I realized I could no longer stay, that staying meant slowly dying inside, that was the moment everything changed. The cold loneliness of that Christmas night clung to me like a shadow, following me into the days that stretched endlessly ahead. My small apartment was a world apart from the home. I had lost a cramped, bare space where every creak of the floorboards echoed my solitude. The walls seemed to close in, suffocating me with memories and silence. For weeks, I drifted through days filled with uncertainty. The odd jobs I found barely covered the rent and meals. My hands ached from work, but the ache inside my heart was far deeper. Sleep was elusive. Nights were haunted by whispers of doubt and flashes of past rejections. Was I strong enough to survive this storm alone? Did I even deserve to? I remember lying awake one night, staring at the cracked ceiling, tears blurring the faint glow of streetlights outside my window. It was a breaking point, a moment when despair threatened to swallow me whole. Yet, somewhere deep inside, a spark flickered stubbornly. It whispered that this wasn't the end, that I could forge a new path beyond the ruins. That spark grew into a fire fueled by defiance. I resolved not to let their rejection define me. I wasn't just the daughter they cast aside, I was Camilla, a woman with dreams yet to be fulfilled. With trembling hands but a determined heart, I began rebuilding. I enrolled in evening classes, determined to learn skills that could open doors closed by my past. I poured my emotions into painting and sketching, the art that had always been my secret refuge. In each brushstroke, I found release. In every color, a piece of my shattered spirit mended. One day, I reached out to a mentor I had admired, from afar, a kind woman who saw potential where others saw flaws. She became my guide, offering wisdom and encouragement when I felt lost. Through her, I learned that strength wasn't about never falling but rising each time I did. My circle of friends grew, too, not by blood but by bond. These were people who celebrated my small victories and lifted me when I faltered. Together, we created a family of choice, filling the emptiness left by those who turned away. The turning point came quietly but decisively. After months of struggle, I sold my first painting. The buyer was moved by the raw emotion it captured, a testament to my pain and resilience. That sale wasn't just a financial breakthrough. It was proof that I could create something beautiful out of brokenness. Word spread slowly but surely. Gallery owners took notice. Invitations to exhibit followed. Each opportunity was a step out of the darkness, a climb toward the life I'd always dreamed of. Yet, the journey was far from easy. There were days when the wounds of rejection reopened, when loneliness crept back in, but each setback was met with renewed determination. I had tasted hope, and I was not about to let it slip away. One chilly autumn evening, as I stood before a small crowd at my first solo exhibition, I realized how far I had come. The same woman who was once silenced and unseen was now being heard and celebrated. The fire inside me burned brighter than ever. This was just the beginning of my rise. The ashes of my past were fertile ground for a future forged in strength, courage, and hope. Years had passed since that cold autumn day when my mother cast me out. The girl who once trembled behind closed doors had transformed into a woman who commanded rooms and held her own destiny firmly in her hands. I was no longer invisible. I had built a life from the ashes of rejection, a life filled with success, respect, and a power they never imagined I could claim. The invitation to the family reunion arrived unexpectedly, a pale attempt at reconciliation. They wanted me back, but I was no longer the scared daughter who needed their approval. I was Camilla, the woman who owned a flourishing art gallery, who inspired others through her story, and who had the strength to face the ghosts of her past. When I stepped into the familiar house, the air thickened with tension. Eyes widened, jaws clenched. The whispers stopped abruptly. The black sheep had returned not meekly, but with a presence that demanded acknowledgement. My mother's eyes locked onto Minea, a flicker of something I couldn't quite read. Regret? Fear? Shame? It was there, hidden beneath her carefully constructed armor. The confrontation was inevitable. Words that once cut deep were now met with steel. I spoke not with anger, but with the quiet confidence of someone who had been through the fire and come out stronger. You told me I was a disgrace. You excluded me, ignored me, treated me like I was less than nothing, I said, my voice steady. Look at me now. I'm here not because I needed you, but because I chose to face you. Her composure cracked. The woman who once wielded control like a weapon faltered, exposed for all to see. The siblings who sided with her avoided my gaze, confronted with the consequences of their cruelty. But it wasn't just about revenge. It was about reclaiming my story, rewriting the narrative of pain into one of triumph. As the night wore on, I revealed the truths they tried to bury, how their rejection fueled my fire, how their doubt forged my resilience. Each revelation was a blow, shaking the foundation of the family that had once seemed unbreakable. Then came the twist no one expected. A letter, discovered only days before, surfaced a will that had been hidden, naming me the rightful heir to the family estate. The shock rippled through the room, faces drained of color. The power dynamics shifted in an instant. I stood tall, not as a victim, but as the rightful bearer of their legacy, proof that their cruelty could not destroy me. The night ended with whispers of apologies, empty promises, and a family forever changed. For me, it was closure, a moment to savor the strength I had fought so hard to earn. But deep down, I knew this was only one battle in a war far greater, the battle to heal, to forgive, or to walk away for good. The days after the confrontation were heavy with silence and shifting tides. Some family members approached me with hesitant apologies, their voices shaky and unsure. Others turned away, unable or unwilling to face the truths they had long ignored. But I knew that reconciliation wasn't the path I needed to take, not yet, and perhaps not ever. Standing in the quiet of my studio, surrounded by the art I had poured my soul into, I felt a peace I never thought possible. The woman I was now wasn't the frightened girl who begged for acceptance. She was a survivor, a creator of her own destiny. Every scar, every tear, every lonely night had shaped me into someone who no longer sought validation from those who had rejected her. I chose forgiveness not as a way to erase the past or excuse the pain inflicted upon me, but as a means to release its hold on my heart. Forgiveness became my liberation. It was a gift I gave myself, a shield against bitterness and despair. I no longer carried the weight of their cruelty. I was free to live fully and authentically. My art blossomed in this new chapter, reflecting not just my pain but my resilience and hope. The colors on my canvas told stories of struggle and triumph, heartbreak and healing. I found a community of kindred spirits, people who saw beyond scars and failures to the strength beneath. In relationships, I learned to set boundaries and demand respect. I surrounded myself with those who lifted me up rather than tore me down. The loneliness that once threatened to consume me was replaced by connection and belonging on my own terms. Looking back, I see now that true strength is not just in enduring hardship, but in choosing hope over despair, love over bitterness, and self-worth over rejection. It is the courage to rise each time you fall, to rebuild when everything seems lost. To anyone watching who has felt cast aside, unheard, or unworthy, your story is not finished. The darkest nights are often the prelude to the brightest dawns. You possess within you a wellspring of strength waiting to be tapped. Believe in your worth, fight for your dreams, and never let anyone define your value. So, I ask you, if you were in my shoes, would you walk away from everything you loved? Or would you fight with every ounce of your being to reclaim your life and your happiness? If my story resonated with you, please take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe for more stories of courage and resilience. Your support means the world to me. And please, share your thoughts or your own journey in the comments below. Together, we create a community of strength and hope. Thank you for being part of my story.